I think I was 11 or 12 years old. My sister was 14 years old. We had a ATV four-wheeler, and we were in the Wolftown community of Cherokee. Drove up the mountain, what we did a lot of times, and so we would drive probably about a mile up the mountain or maybe 2 miles up the mountain on old logging trails. One day, and I don't recall the season, I don't recall like the time, like the month or anything like that. I think that I was 11 years old. Yeah, so we started driving up the mountain and came to a point, an intersection that splits into three directions. And this is a place that we're familiar with. Like this is, we've been up here plenty of times and we walk it or four-wheel it. We still walk it to this day. So we went into the middle of this fork and it kind of starts going down. I was driving the four-wheeler and she was riding, and there was a point where I started to feel different. It wasn't extremely significant, it just felt a little different than it normally did. And as we came down this little hill, we drove up and I stopped because there were two of them to our left on the side of the bank. And in that moment, like I always felt like it was a mom and a kid. There was one that was a lot larger and one that was probably 5'7", 5'6", and the other one was a lot bigger than it. A lot of hair, dark hair, not black, but not brown, like a mixture in between that. I don't remember the face, but I know that, and I keep referring to it as a her because it felt very motherly, like in the ways that like protective of looking back is something like I would do now as a mom. And, as soon as like seeing us going down, but what I don't understand is why she didn't hear us. Like, because we were in close proximity, I would say 10 to 12 feet away from them. So it was very close, and that's, I guess I just assumed that maybe they were in a different spectrum or a different sphere, of being. And what I assumed was like the mom turned, and as soon as she turned back, her and the smaller one just ran down the bank side. The little one did not look back. And he was, I just assumed that it was a boy. I don't know why I think that, but he was to the left of her. She was on the right side. And, and in these mountains, like these roads, there are just banks that just go down, and that's what they did. They just ran away. And we ran away. And that was a point where like I felt really, my adrenaline started pumping up, and because we had to, I was so terrified and she was terrified, and we just zoomed out of there and went back to our house, and we told my dad. He assumed it was a bear. Yeah, and for a long time I think my sister transformed her story into that, and she's finally come back around to say that like it was Bigfoot. I'm pretty sure I know what a bear looks like, and it just didn't feel like a bear. Like it didn't feel like of us or of like what we know. Yeah. My dad hopped on the four-wheeler and went up to check everything out and didn't see anything. But for a long time when I would, and I haven't shared my story a lot, I tell like close friends if we somehow get onto the topic or something, I'll like share it with them. Like one of my biggest regrets is definitely just not going to the edge of the bank and looking down. But
So one of my biggest first sightings of something you would say unusual or Sasquatch was 2015. I think it was June 23rd. The waxing crescent moon, you know, if people are outdoors people, they know the moon phases. That's a big thing. And it was a great night. So I left Silva about, I think it was about 10:15. I just told my wife, she's used to it. I said, hey, I'm going on a ride. I'll be back 3 or 4 in the morning, something. And I usually go on a gravel road way back. Then I'll come back and listen, make some noise, that type of thing. Well, I'm on the main road. Well, as it goes up to on 64, I'm a little vague about things, but that's on purpose. But at the bottom of the mountain, I see 3 deer. I'm like, all right, moon's out. You know, it's 40%. I think it's 42% illuminated. Perfect. You know, kind of dark, kind of not light, enough light. And I slow down. I wasn't doing about 30 miles an hour to it. It goes into a 2-lane road. I'm working my way up the mountain. As I come into this S-turn, I look and there's a coyote in the side of the road. And I'm just like, wow, this is perfect. There's a coyote. So I slow up thinking it's going to run across the road in front of me. As I get closer to it, I bet I ain't even doing 10 miles an hour now. It don't look at me, it's not looking at me, it's looking across the road. So as I get close to it, I just happen to pan to my left and off the guardrail, and as it's really steep there, I see this very large thing with a little, I remember the dome head, it had a little dome head, and if you know anything about primates, the dome head from the back means the jaws below the shoulder, and I could see the back, the line of the back spine. I could see not fur but hair. It was scraggly looking hair and massively broad shoulders. And I had audio running. I always have audio going. Don't have it on right now, but I just go into this crazy mode. I start talking to myself and answering myself. And I'm trying to say it's a burnout like a pine tree. You know, when pine trees are dead, they turn that auburn or reddish brown look to them. That's what I thought. I said, no. So I go up and turn around and come back, nothing there. And I spent a couple hours there and immediately go down and call Matt Pruitt. I said, Matt, you know, and he's like, what? And he told me a great tip. He said, Jess, just start drawing. Just go home and start sketching. And I have that artwork here for you that depicts what I saw, and that's exactly what I saw. Remember, I had one arm out like this, but it didn't turn. It was perfectly still. But details, broad shoulders, very, very broad shoulders, but narrow waist. Now, I could not see below the butt because it's off a steep bank behind a guardrail. And I had a good friend go by. He played college basketball. His son played at North Carolina. He's 6'9", so the next day I have him go stand on the side of the road, and it was just way wider than side. Now, I don't know about the height, and the shoulders rolled in, but I remember the back spine, and then in June, scraggly hair. It had, I could see, looked like skin underneath it, Seth, like a grayish looking color. There was something different there. It's hard to tell, and it was only 4 or 5 seconds, but I got a great look at it.
I talked to someone the other day and I said, what are some of the things in your family history that was passed down to you? Whistling. We never go in the woods and whistle. I wasn't allowed to. And then she said, we always closed our window blinds because we didn't want the boogeyman to come in.
So there are some local native traditions that connect with the modern idea of a relict hominoid or Sasquatch.
But we do have a lot of our elders that believe Bigfoot, he's our protector.
I think if you're talking about what the Smokies would be most known for, it would be the disappearances.
When I went through the report database, there was an inordinate amount of sightings in this area compared to almost any other area in Appalachia.
We drove up. I stopped because there were 2 of them. I always felt like it was a mom and a kid.
We were driving by. She goes, hey, did you see that? I go, what? You know, again, I'm going to say it's Bigfoot. Jumped from the embankment up to the road and stood there and started watching us.
He was absolutely massive. I felt very intimidated by that one.
If you were going to take somebody, but the easiest explanation would be that you're hungry.